Hey Florida travelers, Krista here, and the Kennedy Space Center is one of my favorite attractions in Central Florida. And if you're thinking about going, I'm going to go over all of the details so you don't miss a thing while you're there. Also, if you're interested in seeing a launch at the Kennedy Space Center, stick around to the end and I'm going to go over a few tips to ensure that you snag a spot. Let's get into it. Located on Merritt Island on the east side of Florida, the Kennedy Space Center is one of NASA's 10 field centers. The visitor complex exhibits a number of historical spacecrafts and exhibits to allow you to walk up to a piece of history. You are able to purchase your tickets online or on site at the ticket kiosk. The cost for Kennedy Space Center is $57 for adults and $47 for kids. I highly recommend you buying your tickets online before you arrive because you're able to just pull the tickets up on your phone and head straight to the gate. The Kennedy Space Center is broken down into a few different mission zones. When you enter the park, the first mission zone that will grab your attention is going to be the Rocket Garden. This outdoor display showcases a number of historic rockets that helped get man into space. And you can walk in and around the base of these ginormous rockets. All of the rockets featured here are real except for 2 of them. If you want to learn more about the Rocket Garden, they do offer free tours throughout the day. The schedule for the tours are always posted right outside of the garden. Right next to the Rocket Garden is Heroes and Legends. This amazing exhibit showcases America's first astronauts and the qualities that define heroes. It takes about 45 minutes to walk through this exhibit, and while you're here, you'll be able to experience a couple of very well done media showcases that fly you through the history of space exploration and the characteristics that make a hero. After the presentations, you'll be able to see a real Mercury Redstone rocket, the Mercury Control Center, and get up close and personal with a real capsule from the Gemini 9A, which was flown by Thomas Stafford and Eugene Cernan, as well as the Astronaut Hall of Fame. Inductees to the Hall of Fame were selected by Blue Ribbon Committee members that include former NASA officials, flight controllers, historians, journalists, and other space authorities. Did you know that Merritt Island was also home to a national wildlife refuge? If you walk across the walkway, you'll find a small exhibit called Nature and Technology, which showcases this refuge, and you'll get to learn more about its inhabitants, which famously include bald eagles, who migrate to Merritt Island during the winter. You're able to see the bald eagle's nest as you travel to and from the Apollo Center, which your driver will most likely point out when you're nearby. As you walk further back into the park, you'll approach a few special tiles on the ground. And these are piezoelectric tiles that collect energy as you step on them. And they build up this meter on the screen over here near the bus tour entrance. The fun thing is that once the meter fills up, it actually will animate a launch. And so while you're walking towards the next exhibit, don't forget to do your part and make sure that you add a bit of energy to this meter. The next place that I want to tell you about is the bus tour. And at the time of recording, the Kennedy Space Center is currently not doing a full bus tour. But once they get back up and going, this is definitely something that you won't want to miss. Not only does the bus tour take you to the Apollo Center, but it also will drive you by the famous Vehicle Assembly Building, which is the largest one-story building in the world and where most of our rockets are put together. The Kennedy Space Center is still providing transportation from the Visitor Center to the Apollo Center, but there is a catch. It's by reservation only. There are limited spots available, and it's on a first-come, first-served basis. The reservations can be tricky to get, and you'll definitely want to make sure that you make the effort to get to the Apollo Center. Reservations open up with the park at 10 a.m., and there are 2 ways to make a reservation. One is by scanning the QR code code on one of the reservation signs leading up to the bus tour. The other, which is the way I recommend, is by making a reservation via the app. That way, if you're running late and getting to the park right at 10 a.m., you're still able to make a reservation as long as you're within 2 miles of the Kennedy Space Center. At the Apollo Center, you'll be able to walk back in time and relive the steps in the firing room for the first crewed NASA mission in 1968 for the Saturn V rocket. You'll get to experience everything from the safety checks, the countdown, and even the launch, which literally will rattle the entire room. After witnessing the launch, you'll walk straight into the amazing Saturn V rocket itself. This is the same type of rocket that has launched humans to the moon. And as you stroll underneath this giant marvel, you can only appreciate the engineering and complexity of the largest rocket to ever be flown through space. This rocket is 363 feet long and is 60 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty. Out of the 13 Saturn V rockets that were launched into space between 1967 and 1972, this is one of only 3 that remain in the US. Also at the Apollo Center is the exhibit Path to the Moon. This collection of artifacts showcases the Apollo missions 7 to 10 and the technology that it took to keep the astronauts safe as they traveled to the moon. Here you'll be able to look into a real command center module, interact with the steps that it took to get man on the moon, and the artifacts collected during the Apollo mission. A part of this exhibit is the moonscape, which highlights the scene of Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong as they're planting the American flag into the lunar surface. This scene also includes an authentic lunar module that was created for the Apollo mission. If you want to relive the Apollo landing, head over to the Lunar Theater, where you'll be able to see the final few minutes of the landing and the most famous words ever spoken from the surface of the moon.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
But along with all of the amazing successes that the Apollo mission has had, there were a few sacrifices. And at the very back of the Apollo Center, you'll be able to see Ad Astra per Aspera, where you'll be able to honor the lives of Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee in the Apollo 1 tribute. This tribute shares mementos from the fallen astronauts, and you'll get a chance to get to know these amazing men who will forever continue to live through the history and success of the Apollo missions. When you return from the Apollo Center, you'll be dropped off right in front of the Space Shuttle Atlantis Center, which you can't miss from a mile away because of the full-scale rocket booster replicas sitting right out front. The Space Shuttle Atlantis is one of my favorite mission areas of the park and definitely a must for your trip to Kennedy Space Center. I remember seeing this presentation for the first time a few years ago, and it was one that stuck out the most to me, and I talked about it for weeks afterwards. The Space Shuttle Atlantis is displayed at an angle as only astronauts would be able to see it in space at 43.21 degrees, which is actually an inside engineering joke if you get it. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Atlantis is one of only 3 space-flown shuttles displayed in the US and showcases NASA's 30-year space shuttle program. There is a short 15-minute walking tour that walks you all around the space shuttle itself and tells you a few fun facts about Atlantis and its 32 different missions into space. I highly recommend taking this tour because it's really fascinating and I've learned so many new facts every time that I've done it. There are so many things to do at the Atlantis Center, and you'll want to make sure that you allocate enough time to explore it, because it's not just the shuttle, but this whole experience where you'll get to walk through a recreation of the inside of the shuttle, and you'll be able to learn more details about the shuttle by using these touch screens, and to try your hand at virtually using the SRMS, which is the long arms that extend from the shuttle. And you'll also be able to see the famous Airstream that transported the astronauts to the launch pad. Also at the Atlantis Center is the Hubble telescope exhibit, which includes an exact replica of the telescope, and if you want to learn more about it, there's also a film that you can watch at the Hubble Space Theater. Before you head downstairs, you'll come across a crawl-through exhibit of the ISS, which you'll want to allow your kids to do before they walk downstairs to explore the actual components of the ISS itself. Here, you and the kids will be able to learn how the astronauts ate, slept, and exercised out in space. If you ever wondered what it would feel like to take off in a space shuttle yourself, there is an amazing space shuttle simulation that takes you through an 8.5-minute ascent into space. The astronauts all claim that it's the best thing to flying aboard the space shuttle itself. By the way, if you're finding this information helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you would like to get more ideas like this to do during your amazing Florida vacation. If you're spending the entire day at Kennedy Space Center, there are a few restaurants that are sprinkled throughout the park. At the time of filming, only one restaurant is currently open, which is the Orbit Cafe. Obviously, around lunchtime, the lines for the Orbit Cafe can get tremendously long. We waited a little bit later in the day to eat, hoping that the line would be a little bit shorter, but even around 3 p.m., the line was still reaching all the way outside. But of course, all of this will dissipate as the other restaurants start to open back up, which is hopefully soon. Right next to the Orbit's Cafe is the Space Shop, which of course is the largest space shop in the world. Measuring at over 15,000 square feet, this shop is packed with every space memorabilia and NASA gear. While you're here, make sure that you head up to the second floor and walk across the original Apollo 11 gantry. Near the shop is the Kennedy Space Center's newest attraction, which is Planet Play, which is an indoor interactive attraction where kids from 2 to 12 can play on planets, climb into a wormhole. There is also a slide that goes into an astrofield. In the same building as Planet Play is Kennedy Space Center's IMAX Theater, which shows movies daily and is also included with admission. Also near Planet Play is the Journey to Mars, which you'll want to include into your day. Here you'll get to discover NASA's plans to explore deep space, which also includes Mars. And of course, a journey back to the moon. While you're here, make sure that you test your space knowledge with interactive games, and don't miss your chance to be up close and personal with a few full-scale replicas of the Mars rovers. One thing that we did not get to experience while we were here was their newest concept vehicle designed for navigating the demanding landscape of Mars, the MRVN. This is a full concept vehicle, and you'll be able to get up close and personal with this amazing design. If you want to get the ultimate Kennedy Space Center experience, then you'll want to make sure that you plan your visit around a launch day. Kennedy Space Center is one of the closest locations to be able to experience a launch, and if you're lucky enough to get a rocket launch during park hours, you'll be able to head to a few of the different viewing areas available and experience it up close within the park. If the launch is after hours, then you will have to buy an additional ticket to view the launch at Kennedy Space Center. They make sure to clear out the park before they start loading the buses, and if the launch is happening after hours on the day that you plan to go, you have to make sure that you grab your tickets early. There is a limited number of tickets available, and once they're gone, and they don't add any more of those tickets if people cancel or no show. So make sure that you grab those tickets on a line while they're still available. You are able to see the schedule for the upcoming launches on the Kennedy Center website if you want to see if a launch is scheduled on or during your Florida vacation. If the launch is after hours and you don't manage to get a ticket to the viewing area, then hope is not lost. You are able to still view the launch from several different viewing areas in the vicinity. And if you're interested in knowing where those are, just in case, I created a whole video about this, which I'll plug up at the top right now. One of the greatest advantages of viewing a launch at the Kennedy Space Center is all of the conveniences that you have available to you, which you might not get if you view a launch from any other location. If you view the launch from Banana Creek like I did, you'll get access to the Apollo Center where there are bathrooms and a cafe available. So you're able to grab drinks, snacks, and even a pizza while you wait, which is usually about a couple of hours. Most people view the launch from the bleachers like I did, but there's plenty of room on the grounds if you want to spread a blanket out and watch the launch from the grass in front of the Apollo Center. One of the things that I loved the most about viewing the rocket launch from the Kennedy Space Center is that you'll get a representative that will give you details about what to expect and when. You're also able to watch the Jumbotron of the SpaceX broadcast at the same time. The broadcast is a few minutes behind, of course, so make sure that you're paying attention to the rep versus the broadcast, or you're gonna miss the very beginning of the launch. If you want to learn other ways to view a launch from the Space Coast, make sure that you check out my video on how to view a rocket launch in Florida, which just popped up on the screen. Until next time, everyone, I hope you have an amazing day and go out and enjoy some Florida sunshine.